Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, the only show right now in Indian television where you, the MSME, get center stage. This is ET Now's special daily initiative to ensure that you, the MSME entrepreneur, are front and center on every industry that matters to you. Tonight on Direct Connect, a panel of experts answering your questions, and later on Small Giants, we'll bring you the story of Upgrad. Gentlemen, Manish, Sajid, thank you both very much for being with us here tonight. Let's take in our first query, and this is coming to us on our Facebook page from Sashi Menon, who says he's a global enterprise and has core competencies in the field of healthcare, chemicals, flavor, fragrances, etc. He's written into us to ask what is the right kind of HR talent. He wants to know whether the person being hired is trained, skilled, etc. in the specific skill sets that they need and how they find that, which is something that you would go through in the hiring process, I presume, but is there anything specific?
Sure, hiring is always a challenge for companies. I think it's important to have a proper org chart, right? Have an org structure, define growth paths for people, right? Give them non-financial rewards. At the end of the day, people are looking to back a set of people. It's not only one person. You have to build that second level team, which I find a lot of these early companies don't have as of yet.
Okay, let's also talk about the fact that when both of you gentlemen are looking at companies that you are interested in investing in, from a manpower and from a skill set perspective, how do you know that this is possibly a company that you might be interested in? You know, a couple of things that companies which are looking for investors should keep in mind when it comes to the people side of it.
So having relevant experience is very, very important. It is important to have a set of people who have experience in the industry. So you bring the domain expertise and a bunch of new people as well who can think in a different way, right? Combine both of them, have a well-defined sort of management team covering all the processes, whether it's a chief of product, chief of technology, director of engineering, head of HR, head of finance, obviously somebody who's the COO, CEO, have all these things defined, right? And as you scale up, the areas you would keep adding talent to. At the end of the day, people are investors back people at this stage. They don't back anything else. They don't back a well-defined market need. They back a set of smart pedigreed people.
Okay.
So just to add to what Sajid said, I would essentially say that businessman needs to invest time in hiring people. You know, many of the times you will see it's more a tick mark exercise. You know, you come along, or I know you and say, boss, okay, join me in the business. So if you spend enough time, or invest enough time in hiring people, looking at their background, I think background will give you interesting clues. And once you start interacting more and more on their vision, and is there a vision of these guys aligned with that of yours, it gives you good sense. I will spend a lot of time indeed hiring every resource we hire.
All right. So a couple of things for you to keep in mind, Sashi, when it comes to skill sets of people that you're hiring. Also, if you are in the market, of our viewers are in the market looking for funds, some things to keep in mind about also having the right manpower in place. Our next query is coming to us from Nitin. He sent us an email, and we will tell you how you can reach us via email at the end of this episode. He says he's a land banker from Surat and does various projects, but they are unable to raise funds from banks. He says they've been in the textile space for many years and they convert their costly land into shopping complexes. Banks, however, he says, are saying they need to complete 3 projects to get loans. How do they overcome this despite having collateral? Because a lot of our entrepreneurs tell us we don't have collateral, we're unable to raise funds. He clearly has collateral by way of land.
My suggestion to me would be do some kind of joint venture with a developer, right? Or allocate some parcel of your land holdings. Sit with them, learn how it is done, and then get the relevant experience and try and go get a bank loan. And of course, there are NBFCs as well. You can try and get construction finance, but being a first timer, it may be hard.
Okay, sure. So Nitin, what possibly could be holding back banks from lending to you, like experts are suggesting, is a lack of experience that you're able to show on your part. So do look at joint ventures, etc., with some established players. Let's take in our next query. This is coming to us from VS Madhusudan. Go ahead.
See, we are exporters, merchant exporters. Bank nowadays, especially this SBA, even for the saving bank account, they are asking 5,000 rupees, even if it is little less, they are charging. That means the urban people, those who are only big shots, only can open an account in State Bank of India, and they don't want other people. See, this should be changed. And even current account, we are having some lakhs for some time to buy products and keep some for months. They don't give any interest for that. But for the saving account, minimum 5,000 rupees you have to keep it. This is ridiculous, and this has to be answered and taken by authority, and then they have to reduce by at least 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees. Our money, they are charging like anything.
He is saying in the question, Madhu is saying, give me an alternative lower interest option. So it looks to me that he is only focusing on loan as the source of capital. I would essentially highlight that, look, borrowing money is not the only source of capital. There is something called equity, and you have no limit on how long you can print equity. And I keep saying, promoters, look, it's not the Fed or the Reserve Bank of India which can print cash. You can actually print your own equity, give it to people and take cash against it, and there is no limit to it, to what extent you can raise capital.
Absolutely, but equity is the most expensive form of money, which is true, but for somebody like him, he can't service his requirements, right? So I would wonder, with such thin margins, how he could possibly survive. So absolutely right, he has to go and convince somebody to take equity, and that's the only way he could grow.
Yeah, so essentially I would think that if you can't really serve the debt, or lenders are, or you are looking at every profit money is going to the lenders, you have to think about finding a partner in the simpler form, or issuing the equity to someone, get him in,
Sure.
and alleviate this problem.
The purpose of running a business is to make profit. So even that is being threatened, then do take a look at what is going wrong and where things are going wrong, Madhusudan. Our next query is coming to us from Nirmal. Nirmal Dugar, go ahead.
We manufacture HDP pipes. The problem is regarding unskilled laborers. There's a big crisis of unskilled laborers. The government has come up with a scheme called Manrega, and they give Manrega this amount due to which people do not come for labor because they get money without doing anything. And whereas small scale industry is suffering for want of labor.
Okay. I'm very unsure about how to answer this. We should be happy that people, there's the Manrega program, there's a minimum wage being guaranteed, but if you want to take on this question.
Well, I think he maybe have to get laborers from somewhere else to come and help him, or outsource part of the manufacturing process if he's actually got customers and he can cater to them.
Okay.
Very limited. I don't think I can add to it.
All right. So look at then other options if you are unable to find people in Visakhapatnam because of the Manrega program, like you're saying. Our next query is coming to us from Ash Divakar. Go ahead.
Yes, I have a electronics distribution company, and the problem which I am facing is that I need some convincing techniques to convince the investor to invest in my firm, and how to recruit the perfect person for the managing company.
Okay. Convincing techniques. I like the use of the word. He's asking for convincing techniques about how to convince investors like yourself. Let me start with you, Manish. One or two things that he should use.
So when does someone give money to someone? It's a function of trust. To my mind, that's the very first part, that I trust you as an individual, or I trust you as a team. Like Joki, when you and me sit in the aeroplane, we trust the pilot. Sure. We say he will take us from one destination to another. Similarly, when we are putting money somewhere, we trust that this promoter or this businessman will not, do something wrong with the money which we allocate to him or her. Sure. Right? You will prudently put that in the business, try to build, the business around that money, number one. And then I have to trust the business and the business opportunity. The business you are carrying on, for example, we can't make the dogs fly. So if a business quality itself is poor, even if I trust you, I probably will not put the money. So two things one has to be very clear about: the quality of the individual. Do I trust the guy? Do I trust the opportunity? Right? He's trying to cater to. The other two things I would essentially.
I think what he's also asking is he needs help doing it, right?
Yeah.
So my suggestion would be hire somebody who's fundraised in the past, somebody who knows what investors look for, what kind of presentations you need to make, what kind of ratios they ask, the kind of questions they ask, what annual operating plans are to be made. So a lot of people who have in fact worked in companies that have raised money over a period of time. The last couple of years we've seen this a lot. So get some of that talent in. get ideally a CFO or somebody in your finance department who has fundraised for a company before or has been part of the process. He can definitely help you.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add to what Sajid said, they are investment bankers. Their job is to help people raise capital. So they should hire some good investment banker.
Sure.
Absolutely.
All right. So that's in response to your question, Arsh. Thanks for calling in with that. And we've run completely out of time. Manish, Sajid, thank you both for being here tonight. Time for a break. On the other side, we'll bring you the story of Upgrad on our Small Giant segment. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight on Small Giants, we're featuring the story of Upgrad. Education is perhaps the unsung hero when it comes to development in any country, more so when we're talking about a country like India, and when your workforce is comprised majorly of millennials, then reskilling and upskilling becomes that much more important. Shubhangi Sinha caught up with one of the co-founders of Upgrad to talk about the role of technology when it comes to online education. Take a look.
All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. All work and no growth must then make Jack and everyone else stuck in a rut, angry and frustrated. And finding a job in today's competitive market is a gamble, especially since almost 50% of graduates in India are not employable. Providing the option of upskilling and reskilling themselves is the Mumbai-based company Upgrad. Started by 3 IIT graduates and Ronnie Screwvala in 2015, this edutech company is able to bring to its students quality content at scale.
Ravijot, let us start by talking to you about what the inspiration really was behind starting Upgrad. Now, we do know that there have been studies which say that a lot of graduates who come out of universities and colleges in the country are not even employable. So what is the gap that you're trying to bridge with Upgrad?
So there are two key things, two sort of trends that are pushing, like the need for, expanding the access to education in India. One of them is that if we need to meet our, GDP or the targets that the government has set up, it's very difficult to do that with brick and mortar institutes. We need a lot of higher education graduates, and the amount of investment and the time needed to build, infrastructure to set up those is just going to push India back by a lot of years, right? So that's where we felt there was a lot of scope in, using online as a medium to actually expand access to higher education. The second thing, as you've noticed, you must be reading these articles about, IT changing very fast. So IT has kind of fueled the growth of middle class in India in the last few years. But as the business model is changing, as the nature of projects is changing, it's moving kind of in the higher level of the value chain of technology, things are changing very rapidly, right? So you can no longer bank on like a 4-year college degree that you did some training for 6 months and then, be good for the rest of your life. So education, we realized, was changing a lot from being just an event in your life to being more continuous. You need to continuously upskill yourself, and the formats could be different along the way.
Right. So how important to your mind is skilling? Like you were just saying that every industry is dynamic and is changing really rapidly in the country. How important then do you think it is for a professional to keep upskilling himself?
Yeah. So I think there was some statistic that I was reading the other day that today, an average individual goes through 7 or 8 job shifts in their life, which is much higher than what it was like, 20 to 30 years ago. Also, I think about 40 to 50% of people 10 years later will now be working in a job that does not exist today. So, that's what's happening with as the kind of the pace of change and technology and in other industries happens. It's very, very important to, continuously invest in learning. You can no longer bank on what you know, because A, your job may be automated very quickly. B, someone can easily come in with a better skill set than yours, right? Just being a generalist these days is no longer, good enough. So this is going to be the era of continuous learning and kind of continuing to invest in your career as you move forward.
Right, so you have a model which operates entirely online. While there are a few believers who think that education imparted physically or offline is in fact better, how in that case are you able to remain relevant?
Right. So I think the reason kind of where this stems from is, right, it again goes back to that online has been looked at as MOOCs, right? Kind of online is Coursera, online is edX, right? Where the completion rates are 4 to 5%, right? And that's where a lot of skepticism comes in that, okay, if I'm sitting in a university, people know when I'm coming in, people know when I'm dropping out, this kind of a social contract that you've signed with your peers and with your family that, okay, I'm investing in education. Whereas the problem with MOOCs is like no one knows when they come in, no one knows when people drop out, right? And so that's the big credibility challenge that we are trying to tackle, right? So our courses see completion rates between 80 to 90%, right? Because again, we're not focused on just building a content library. We're focused on building that education experience, right? So the peer and the cohort interaction is a large part of our learning experience, for example, right? Maintaining the rigor of our programs is very, very important to us, right? So we want to make sure that just because it's online, there is no reason why it has to be less rigorous. Actually, if not, it has to be more rigorous than an offline experience, right? But I think that's a very good point that you make, that building the credibility of online education is going to be a large part of what we do in the next couple of years, right? It has to be looked at not just as a secondary alternative, but a primary mode for someone, who's willing to kind of upskill and take the next step in their career.
Right, so I understand that this online model helps you scale much faster. So how is it that you're able to scale and reach more people and make courses on Upgrad more accessible?
Now, with education experiences, I think with being a university of 100, 200, 500 learners and being able to give that experience is far easier to do that at, 2,000, 10,000, 20,000 people. And that's where our challenge came in, right? So we're kind of trying to tackle it with a couple of ways. One is, of course, just building out this big network of people in the industry, right? People who are working in the roles that we are training, our learners for, people who are our own alums, people, who are just willing to kind of help the next generation of professionals, right? And through this huge network is how we're kind of scaling a lot of our elements of the learning experience, right? Be it the mentoring that we provide to our learners, be it the academic support we provide to our learners, be it sort of, like in-depth feedback that we provide on our projects, right? A lot of this is happening through the network that we've kind of been able to build.
Now, talking to you about the quality of the courses, really, I'm understanding that every industry, like we mentioned before, keeps changing and the skills required within an industry change as well. So how is it that you're able to maintain the quality of the course and maintain the relevance of the course?
Right. So I think any course, the way we look at, there's a foundational aspect to it, and then there's a lot of, the industry relevant skill aspect to it, right? The foundational aspect is where the university comes in, right? With IIIT Bangalore, we're now building a program with BITS Pilani. That's, where a lot of foundational. So if you're a learner with our course, you have that foundational pillar, and then you kind of, build upon the skills that are needed today in the industry. We are building our programs in collaboration with the companies who are the biggest recruiters for analytics or, whatever other area that we're building a program for. That's how we're kind of ensuring that, our program curriculum is relevant to what they need and is up to date, right? And then we also work with people not only from India for our PM program, for a DA program as well. We've got people even who worked in the Valley or are working in the Valley, right? So that anything that's new or cutting edge that's happening, which, may take some months to come into India, we're kind of on top of that and, sort of laying the seeds of that in our programs as well.
Now, the awareness about the credibility of online courses is gradually increasing in the country, and so are the number of edutech companies. In this scenario, what do you think are the one or two things that set Upgrad apart?
I think we always say that we are in the business of building great learning experiences, right? And that's what our USP is, that we're not a content company, we're an education company, and there's a big difference, between the two. So what we're really trying to build is a great education learning experience, with content, technology, and a lot of student success initiatives that I talked about, right? Mentoring, feedback on your projects, having dedicated student mentors to kind of guide you through each program, and the career and job support that we provide, right? And then being able to do all of this at a scale which has not been seen before, right? It's easy to do that at 100, 200 people, but we're really, looking to and working towards doing that at a scale of thousands, right? And that's where the power of online really comes in, by taking a great learning experience to scale.
A Apart from working with universities and industry partners to create world-class content, Upgrad has the unique capability to deliver the learning experience at scale and provide dedicated support services for students.
Completely out of time then on this episode of Leaders of Tomorrow. If you have anything that you want to say to us or you want to be featured here on the show, do remember you can write in at leadersoftomorrowtimesgroup.com. On social media, tweet at me personally at Sunanda_J or LOT_ET now. On Facebook, you can reach us on Leaders of Tomorrow on ET now or call us on that number you see on your screen. We promise to have all your questions answered. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.